And that's why they call it Happy New Year. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
So we're not going to do all the catching up and the talking, the reviews and all that stuff because we've got a jam-packed episode this week. You don't agree?
I do. I strongly. Listen, it was a great conversation, and Adam's going to tell you what it is in a minute, but we just kept going. It was great.
So what you guys are about to hear is a conversation we had with the folks in the Tone Merchants who are out of Dan's neck of the woods. And they had reached out to us about doing a band coaching, and they're like, we'll pay anything. And I was like, well, don't pay money. We'll just turn you into content.
There you go.
And they're like, we can do that. Yep. So that's what they did. For some folks, this is a lot of stuff that we have covered before. But if you are new to the show, or you haven't been aware of the coaching sessions that we've done, this is something that we really enjoy doing, just trying to help folks in their market break through and find ways to, find success wherever they are. And so that's what we were trying to do with these folks.
Yeah, and I think the conversation was so good. It speaks to what a delicate thing branding is. I think that's 100%. What it comes down to. We kept finding places where the story they were telling just didn't line up with the story they were delivering on stage. And if they just had those two things line up, man, just the, skies would open and people would pour into their shows. So, it's a great conversation.
Let's not get too far into the weeds here.
Let's
go ahead and just cut straight to our conversation with the guys in the Tone Merchants right now. All right, folks. So this week we have Eric, Aaron, and Michael from the Tone Merchants out of your neighborhood. Isn't that right, Dan?
That's right. Raleigh, North Carolina.
So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, kind of talk about what the band is up to and what you're looking to get out of this conversation.
I'm Eric. I am one of the guitar players in the band. We are a 5-piece made up of a lead singer, Michael, on the screen here, a drummer, Aaron, as you see, a bass player, and another guitar player. And we started about a year ago as a byproduct of wanting to play live music locally. And we built our band through Craigslist ads. So I found these guys, I took the lead and found these guys online, and through a series of auditions was able to put the band together. We focus on what we call guitar-driven, high-energy rock covers. And what that basically means is we're playing the hits, the danceable hits from the 70s on up to today. The songs that the crowds love to get up and dance and have a good time, and we like to have a good time with them as well.
My name is Michael. I am the lead singer and MC, as Eric likes to call me sometimes. And we're definitely a high energy band that doesn't really do any slow songs. We'd like to keep people on the dance floor, get them onto the dance floor. And then also, I am pretty much a free spirit as well. I like to go wherever I can, around the bar, behind the bar, up on the stage. I try to get my steps in a 3-hour performance. And so that's what I try to do.
So ultimately, it looks like you guys have been pretty active over the past year. And, looking at your schedule, you guys are literally booked out monthly until December of 2025. So, looking at where you are and what you've accomplished so far, where do you want to go from here, and what can we help you guys with ultimately?
So great question. And I think to put it as succinct as possible, we need help getting more people to our shows. We're finding that once people are there, they stay, they have a good time, they tell us they love us, they enjoy themselves. But what we're struggling with is because we are in the Triangle in North Carolina, which encompasses Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, we're kind of spread out. And we're finding that our fans don't like traveling great distances to see shows. So we're trying to find a way to market ourselves to as many people as possible and draw into these very specific communities, because not everyone wants to travel upwards of an hour to go see one of our shows.
And if I could piggyback off that, we've done a lot of things as far as getting the people involved. We use glow sticks. We brought people up to the front of the stage, on the stage. We've even encompassed, even last night, we were using inflatable guitars to have people in the audience act like they're playing with the band as air guitarists, and they seem to like that. So we're doing a lot of trying to incorporate everybody, and also with me running around in the audience and talking to people and shaking hands as I'm singing, we try to, like I say, we want to be involved with the people that are there and give them a reason to like, hey, we're a cover band, but there's 50,000 cover bands. What makes me want to go to Tone Merchants as opposed to going to X, Y, or Z, right?
We had a chance to go through all of your online stuff, looking through your promo material, one sheet, and all of that kind of thing. So we've got a pretty good handle on where you guys are coming from. And it seems like, ultimately, when people are in the door, you guys are nailing it. You're able to keep, get their attention, hold their attention, and hopefully have them come back for more. But the ultimate goal is to have a more consistent fan base when you guys are doing these things while you're going out and doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think we've got a pretty good handle on what we can talk through and ultimately, hopefully give you guys some helpful resources to get you where you want to go.
Because here's the challenge geographically. You mentioned before you hit the record button here. Last night you played in Wake Forest, which is way on the far side of the triangle. It's from the Chapel Hill side of the triangle, it's probably hour and a half, hour and 3/4, something like that. So you're covering a lot of territory. And if you were going to think about building an audience, that audience has got to be ready to travel. And that's a lot to ask these days. So the question is, how do you do that? Or do you lean into a focus that changes the goal?
Yeah.
I think over the course of this conversation, I'm going to be proposing the latter, that some focus would probably help you guys to get where you're wanting to go.
Yeah, because the prospect of where you guys are, you're basically in between all of these college towns, and so the idea of getting somebody to go from one college to another college, kind of a tall order. But if there was a way for you guys to cultivate followings in each of those towns, maybe the overlap between gigs or locations isn't necessarily as important.
But importantly, it is an each of those towns proposition.
Yeah.
When I was working in Greensboro a lot, and then I also had a standing gig in Lexington, which is only 45 minutes away. That feels close compared to what you guys are talking about. And then I had some work happening in Reedsville, which is about 40 minutes north of Greensboro. I very much had local audiences to those places that came out to see me when I was there, but did not really cross geographic boundaries, with some exceptions. There were a couple bonkers, diehard lunatics who did, but not for the most part. And I didn't expect them to. How that's a lot. It's a big ask, right? But I did, through a lot of work in those areas, start to build communities of audience in each of those places. But that took a long time. That wasn't easy. Now, you've already taken a good step I see evidence of a good step. I want to investigate it a little bit here, because I'm on your website here, tonemerchantsband.com, and it looks good. It's a perfectly workable website. I actually have almost no notes about the website. But right at the top, next to your home link, you've got a subscribe link, and that takes you to a sign up for the mailing list page. How big is your mailing list right now?
So the mailing list we just recently implemented. So it's only been a couple of weeks old. We have several dozen people who have signed up, and I guess I'm the de facto leader in this chaos. I will send out notes either through email, or if I have their phone numbers, through texting, letting people know what's going on. And what we try to stress with the sign up, and we do this actually at shows as well during breaks, is the sign up to incentivize people is to have the opportunity to make song suggestions or requests, but also something that we do, which I think is unique, maybe it's not, is buy a beer on your birthday.
I saw that.
And so as a way for them, the people who sign up, that they're getting something out of it, not just simply providing their email.
But it's very fresh. This is something we just started doing. In fact, I made these acrylic frame things that sit on the tables. that'll have the QR code to sign up for that email list. It has our Facebook address, our web address, but then there's another QR code for Venmo. So we just started implementing that just recently. So it's pretty fresh.
Good. Well, listen, I think it's the right move. That my mailing list is how I built those audiences. My mailing list is around 400 people right now.
Wow.
Compared to some, that's not a lot, but I was intentional about marketing it. I built a little piece of marketing shtick that I did in every single show that was about, you've heard it, Eric. You're already nodding. All right, we've come to the part of the show where I need you to take out your phone. I'll wait. Make it fun, but make it a real thing. People are going to go to my website right now and sign up, and then people show me on their phone that they did it. It's a cool moment of interaction, even though they're giving me everything. What I love about come have a free beer on your birthday is not only is it a great little gift, but you're building in a return visit to the show. They got to come to the show around their birthday for that's. When I saw that, it made me really happy. I really think that's smart. Now, what platform are you using to manage that mailing list?
So I'm laughing because it's very low tech. So the website that we're using is being hosted through a web provider. So they have a gathering tool, and then I simply have the ability to access in. I can then lift those email addresses out, and right now, because our numbers are small, I can send personal notes out through a banned email address. Once I think we reach critical mass, we'll probably have to move to something a platform like a MailChimp or something a little more sophisticated to do that. But right now our numbers are small, so it's very easy to manage.
Well, here's what I would recommend. I use MailChimp for mine. It's free up to a certain critical mass of users, so there's not a penalty to get into it now. The crucial thing is to tag your users, to make a set of tags that define the geography that your users came from, because later you can send segmented and targeted emails to just the email segments that are local to the show you're trying to market. And that's really critical. You really do not want to spam Chapel Hill people with Wake Forest shows. But if you can, out of my 500 people, I got 270 that are in Lexington. And if I was going to do a band show in Lexington, you better believe I'd be pumping emails at them for a month. So that's a really critical thing. And I would get into that. I would not wait on that. I would get that going right now, because you need to be tagging those people as they sign up. The morning after the gig, you're having your coffee and you're going back through the signups. You're marking all those ones from last night as, the city they came from. Or, the geography. You probably want to define, neighborhoods more or less, major cities or whatever it's going to be. That was, I think, the biggest tool for me in starting to build those local, geographically defined audiences. So big tip there. And I would not, like I say, MailChimp is free to get into. They can give you the form to place on your page. And when you get to be big enough for them to charge you, it feels really good. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, it makes sense to keep it territorial.
Yeah. I send a monthly. It's been a while since I've done it because I haven't been gigging so hard. But while I was gigging, I had a regular standing weekly. I was sending out a monthly blast to everybody about everything I was doing. And then if there was something local that I wanted to market, I could zoom in on the folks that I cared about. Your gig layout may be totally different from that. You may want to only send local ones, but it's a thing to think about.
And as far as what the target audience for this band and what kind of music you guys are playing, what would you say that target audience is?
That's a great question. And this is where it gets a little challenging, because based on the venue, and the venues here in the Triangle are very unique in and of themselves, because some venues skew towards an older crowd, some skew towards a younger crowd, and then there's some that are kind of in between. It's hard to segment by age. I would say that what we're focusing on are people, specifically, I would go even further and say women, because in our experience, they bring their boyfriends, they bring their husbands, their girlfriends, whatever, to have a good time. So we're focusing really on people that want to have a good time, that want to have each gig, each show that we do is a party, is its own party. And that's what we focus on, people who want to have a good time. To us, it doesn't really matter, whether they're 20 or 80. I don't think it really matters. If they're there to have a good time, if they want to get up and dance, that's who we're focusing in on.
But I will want to add to that, though. I think what our kind of our stumbling block is that we get told people don't want to hear classic rock anymore. And so don't bring that in here. Make sure you bring in the current stuff because that's what our crowd likes to hear. But then we'll go to some places and play, and it's that younger crowd that's singing the Jesse's Girl or the Summer of '69 and things like that, or 867-5309, and as opposed to the older people. But I think that the older crowd right now is what's enjoying us. But to get in those other places, they say this is what we want, right? And so that's kind of like our stumbling block right now.
When you pull out that material and the crowd engages, does that change the mind of the booker?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're a mind changer. When we first, people that don't know us, this is one of the, and maybe you've had this happen too. You show up and you load in all your gear and you go 2 hours early, and the owner comes up and says, "You guys watch your volume because they don't like it loud in here. And if it gets too loud, there's a threat of not being able to come back." And we had that at one of our venues where the guy's like, "Hey, this is a Sunday. We want to take it easy and relax. Don't be too loud." Before we even played a note. And then a couple songs in, he's giving us a thumbs up, and he's like, "I'm gonna hit you." And by the end of the night, he's like, "You guys are coming back. We're gonna have you back, and you guys are great." So we're mind changers, but you have to let us give you that first impression first before. Don't be prejudging. But I think it's because of other bands and other people that have gone through there that have set that tone in the minds of owners, whereas I've never heard this band before. They better keep their decibels at 95 and this and that. And then once they hear us, then we have a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to be able to deliver on the thing that you're trying to promise, but also come in with the right attitude, to be accommodating and do what the venue asks of you, but also to be flexible that like, okay, this is clearly going to get turned up, so let's go with it. The reason why I was asking initially about who you think you're talking to is kind of around the way that you're marketing yourself, because your Facebook page is super active. You guys are posting regularly, and it's a good mix of promo stuff and just kind of engagement stuff. And so I feel like you're doing a good job of keeping it busy. But is that the forum that the majority of the people that you're trying to reach are on? And if not, what other alternatives there might be, just kind of throwing that out there that you may want to try and find other platforms to be active on in order to bring more people in, at least on the outside.
Yeah, and I think that Instagram is in place we haven't explored yet. But with the Facebook, that's the thing too, is we promote the heck out of the venues we're going to, more so probably than they do. And that's, they got a business to run, right? The last thing they want to do probably is get on Facebook, but for us, we do our part there, but we also will go and support other local musicians, and we will post pics of those bands and show how we support other local musicians. So we kind of use it that way too, because we know other local musicians are using the Facebooks and the Instagrams. But I think the Instagram, and I'm not even a Twitter guy. I mean, listen, I can barely get through Facebook and Instagram. But if that's another venue that we need to go through, then maybe that's something as well. I think right now we're just limited because of what's in our minds. We're limited by the knowledge or the lack of the knowledge of what we do.
Yeah. So the thing about Facebook versus Instagram is that they're owned by the same company. And so if you convert your band page on Facebook to a business account, you can actually cross post to Facebook and Instagram simultaneously. So it actually doesn't involve any additional effort on your end. You're just doing it through a different interface, and you can pick and choose. Some of these things go out to Facebook. Some of these things go out to Instagram. Some of these things go out to both platforms. And because you're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook where you're like promoting events, like that's something that's Facebook exclusive. There's not a way to kind of do that through Instagram. But I feel like the level of activity you guys are doing on one could easily be transferred over to Instagram without a whole lot of effort.
That's a good point.
And I think that might be a good way for you guys to build up more engagement, because they're just different audiences. So if you're looking more towards, millennials and skewing, I hate saying younger, because geez, I'm in my early 40s at this point, but millennials are primarily going to be more on Instagram than Facebook. So I feel like there's some there to give that a shot. And again, I don't think there's a lot of effort involved to make that switch.
That's a good point.
I think part of the challenge that we and probably most bands experience when it comes to Facebook is the way the algorithms are set up. And so right now we have several hundred followers, but realistically, not all of them are seeing everything we put out just because of the way the algorithm is set up. And by extension, we cross post onto various band and live music groups that are on Facebook. I get the feeling, though, sometimes the only members of those groups are other bands.
For sure.
It's also, I'd be curious to get Adam and Dan your thoughts on where are the fans? Where are they hanging out? Where are they? Because it would make sense to put our effort to where they are and not where they aren't.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of the reason why the Coverbandconfidential Facebook group doesn't do promotions is that the only people who are in it are other guys like us. So if somebody puts a flyer out for a show, I immediately know, first off, you don't know what we're about,
Right.
and you're not going to get anything out of this. So I have no qualms deleting those posts or blocking, those kinds of things. There are a couple of workarounds, and you have to be kind of selective about the way that you implement them. But if you have an announcement, if you have something that you want everybody to see, you can tag your followers. So you can go into, you can make a post and then in your comments, just type the word @followers, and it will send a notification to everybody. But you have a finite amount of those per month that you can leverage. So there are ways for you to do that don't involve paid ads, but in some circumstances, paid ads aren't the worst idea, because, if you can justify spending $50 to promote a show, I mean, how much would you have spent at Kinko's to flyer, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? There's always a reason to put your money where your mouth is, especially when you're trying to build a following. But if you're not wanting to put money down, that's a really good workaround to kind of get people's attention outside of, the standard paid reach kind of deal.
I was going to say that I've done some A/B testing on Facebook ads, geo targeting based on where the gig is, and trying to reach out to new individuals and just seeing if there's any conversion. We've only done it a couple of times. We haven't invested a whole lot of money. Maybe it's $10, $20, and the cost to acquire is pretty steep. So we haven't gone back and done that just because the return hasn't been that great. What I found in the numbers where we do best is people actually at the show, where there's a physical interaction and there's a conversation, and they get to know us, we get to know them, and then it becomes a little more connected. Where I feel like, at least with the Facebook ads, when we've tried, it seems it's very disconnected. And the conversion rates haven't been that great.
You can't gauge the success of it. I mean, how do you know if it's working or not unless you put something specific in that ad to mention something? But how do you gauge the success of a paid advertisement?
Yeah. So, the thing that is very clear just based on the way that you guys are talking about stuff is that you really do value that one-on-one connection. And I think that there are ways of leveraging that one-to-one connection even on social media. So if you can find ways to incentivize people who came to your shows to post about you, share stuff about you, tag you in posts and that kind of thing, that might be a good way of bringing people in and kind of leveraging that relationship deal, that one-on-one deal, so that they're doing that work for you. So you're not necessarily spending money on it. It's the relational capital that you're leveraging.
Yeah, and for a band that is so oriented around crowd engagement and connection, I think that makes a ton of sense. I watched through some of the content of your YouTube channel, which I want to circle back to. It's not the right conversation for right now, but I want to circle back on that. But just watching that, I got to say, Michael, dude, I love your stage energy. I love your stage energy. And I'm clear, like, I know what those videos are. I've made videos like that. Those were like for a particular purpose, right? But I've also been in that band where the lead singer is like a wild man and running around the room, and it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best. So clearly you want to dig into that and engage those people in like, all right, here I come, get your phone ready. We're going to post this thing, and do that with 30 people or something. The other whole big thought I'm having is, as we talk about this, we're talking largely about marketing to people who already know you. With the exception of paid ads, and I'm with you, I've never had evidence of a single person showing up to a show because I put $20 on an ad. I've never seen it convert even one human. But there is this idea that you could lean into, that to be marketing a band is to be a content creator, is the Mike Schulte approach, right? Where like just your band is making stuff and you're putting it up and you're putting up a ton of it and you're just throwing a ton of stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. And when something does and gets out beyond your reach, well, that's magic. And so I would lean very much into that. It's a kind of a mission I'm going to be on in 2025, to start making more and more, just little moments of brilliance that happen every now and then in my show. Not even every show, but every now and then I have a moment. And if I can accumulate 20 or 30 of those and just start putting them out, who knows what might start to happen. I would recommend you start leaning into that as well, the content creation aspect of what it is to market an artistic project.
And there's plenty of lanes to go to kind of do that. It doesn't have to look like anything that you may be familiar with.
Sure.
The way that I always talk about content creation is like, if you want to do something online, think about the topic that a person would regret asking you about at a party. And if there's something about, like, if there's a particular subject matter that is kind of in the lane of the music that you guys cover, like that would be something to kind of lean into. So, in my world, if you bring up particular lanes of 80s music, like I can just dump just piles of information. And if I had time to do that on top of the podcast and the other 30 things that I've got going on, that's probably what the members only socials would look like. But it's a good kind of North Star to kind of aim towards when you're thinking about, well, what should we do if that's what we're trying to, to put out there outside of, what we're already doing.
Would you suggest, I'm curious to that end, and I'm just thinking aloud here, would you suggest we tie into our set lists so that we're throwing out, so we have events that we promote, but if you're talking about content creation, would something about talking about an artist or the artists that we're playing and almost becoming like the trivial knowledge approach of, like, did you know that, Bruce Springsteen did X, and that becomes the content creation. Did you know that Rick Springfield, today's Rick Springfield's birthday? Happy birthday, Rick.
Yep.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
Could be. Okay. I like that.
And if you do those things in a vacuum, like you just record these videos or whatever, even if you just took the flyer for the gig that you've got coming up, that month, just put it up for 10 seconds at the end of the video. Like, it doesn't have to be something where you are intentionally making it for that specific purpose. And those things can, because the algorithms on these platforms are so segmented, you can put the same thing up 4 or 5 times over the course of a year, and different segments of people are going to see them every time. So you don't have to even worry about, retreading content that's already been put out necessarily.
Yeah, and even when you see stuff you've already seen, it doesn't hurt your feelings. You're like, oh, that.
You just scroll past it,
Yeah, or engage with it again if you liked it. Sure. It's not, you don't need to worry about it always being fresh.
Is there a difference or a preference of video versus, say, a picture or a graphic with text? Is one better than the other?
There's different purposes for those kinds of things, and it depends on the platform. So, YouTube Shorts are only video. That's something but you can leverage the community platform if you hit a certain level of followers on that platform. But as far as like Instagram goes, yeah, you can do like a carousel of pictures or a single picture. Things that, the term that a lot of folks use is engagement bait. So like you put something up where you are asking a question. So something that like is going to elicit some kind of response, either a yes or no, or it's like a controversial thing. And you're ultimately not looking for people to go, this is the band that I want to follow and I want to go see their show. This is a a subject that I'm interested in, and I'm going to respond whether I know who they are or not.
My best engaging thing I ever posted was, "Hey, we want to do some Stevie Wonder. Which song should we do?"
Yeah. Giving strangers the opportunity to share their opinions is a really easy way to do that. And then also doing things that are intentionally kind of aggravating. I posted something the other day which somebody took a Les Paul and they rerouted the tuning so it was like 6 inline across the middle of it, and the comment was smash or pass. And that's all you need. And most people are mad about that because they're like, no, you shouldn't do that to a Les Paul. And then you just comment like, well, at least it stays in tune. Like, just stupid stuff. Whatever you got to do to just get people engaged. And even if they're mad at you, like, that interaction is just going to tell the algorithm to send it to more people. So it's not always about, because the thing is that if all you do is ask people stuff, come to my show, watch this thing, buy this thing, that's not a good way to foster relationship. People don't want to interact with people that only ask for things. There's a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're into social media marketing at all, he talks about, he has a book called Jab, Jab, Right Hook, where you basically are throwing value out constantly and only asking for things occasionally. So you push out jabs, like just the engagement, the funny stuff, the interesting things. And then once a month you go, hey, come see the show or buy this, whatever, do something. And that is going to give people a better impression of you as a brand. Because ultimately that's what you guys are doing. You're selling yourself as an experience or a product. And that's ultimately, the way that you can do that without meeting people face to face. Because Michael, I think you've got that personality where like that one-on-one interaction is everything. That's the lifeblood, and it's very powerful, but it's very focused, and you can only do it in a finite space because you only have one. There's only one of you, and there's only one of them in that moment, and you've only got that room full of people to do it. Right. So finding opportunities to be able to do that on a wider scale will actually give you more opportunities to do the thing that you ultimately want to do, but doing it in the time that you're not normally doing, you're not performing.
Yeah, I was going to say also too, when I do that, it's also, you walk a fine line, because going out to the crowd and surfing the crowd and shaking hands with the people, if you do it too much, it becomes, absurd. It's like almost overkill. Or if you don't do it enough, it's like, man, I love when he came out to the audience. I wish he would have came out more. So you walk that fine line of not over abusing the thing, and then also we look at, are we begging in a sense because we're putting out candy canes and glow sticks and stickers and air guitars and whatnot? I mean, is it like, is too much, or maybe, I'm sure there's big bands out there would disagree. They'd be like, the more the merrier. Like Blink 182, they're known for being crazy during a concert, right? So I don't know. That's that fine line.
I think you'll find too much if you ever get there, and if you do, I'm interested to hear about it. I've never found that. Here's what you do though, like that the couple of times you're going to go out in the crowd, and you know the deal. I've done it. You got the wireless mic, you put your arm around somebody, and you sing something together, right? Here's the thought I'm having, like, prep them. All right, here comes your Instagram moment. Get your phone ready. We're doing this. We're posting it, and go to like 8 or 10 people, but like the ones who are ready with their phones out to do the selfie and like post it, tag us, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, set it up, have it be a thing, and then like end up with that going out into the world for that 5 or 6 minutes of whatever you're doing.
Great point. Great point.
Right? Capture that as marketing.
And, we're kind of getting wrapped around the axle here because the reason why we're talking about this kind of stuff is that before we started, recording, you guys were saying we're not always able to get into the places that we want to get into, right, because we don't necessarily feel like what we have out there is telling the right story. And so ultimately the intent of doing those things is for you to put them onto some sort of front-facing platform, your YouTube channel, your Instagram account, or whatever. So when Eric does that cold call or you send those emails out, they go to that place and they see people interacting the way that they're interacting with you. And because ultimately your promo is supposed to show two things. It's supposed to show you guys looking kick ass and people having fun. And so if you can do that, then it removes a lot of friction for people who are there to make the decisions.
And here's where we loop back to the YouTube channel, because I watched through a lot of that and it does not show you guys looking kick-ass in a crowd having fun. What it shows is you guys looking competent.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. You sound okay. I wish the audio was off the board instead of out of the room.
Right.
You know that. But boy, what I wouldn't give for some supercut of the Michael show running around the room, like, and and I would recommend Eric and my fellow string players raising your stage energy up a little bit, kind of come up to 40% of what Michael does. Not 100. That's a lot to ask. I know,
I know, right?
Just a little more stage bop it would be useful. But boy, if we could have that crowd loving the engagement and loving playing with their literally air guitars, right? Call them that. I'll give you that one for free. Inflatable air guitar, right? That's what I'm missing in that whole thing. Is like, there's one moment where it looks like there's a table with some people chatting at it in the corner, but apart from that, it looks like you made a deal to record some videos in an afternoon at a bar. And I don't know if there's an audience or anything. I don't know if that was actually what happened, but
As I say, we did that specifically because there wasn't the huge crowd and we didn't want to show empty space.
Right, for sure. And it's tight on you and it shows you playing competently, which is not nothing. That's better than some bands. But that's not the selling point of you. The selling point of you guys is the energy, the connection, the engagement, and we got to get some videos in there that show that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And Dan, I would add that what we didn't capture on the YouTube videos, for myself and the other guitar player, we've gone wireless, so we
Good.
are no longer shackled to the 10
so you can roam too. You're out in the room as well.
Yeah. So we were moving around last night, and we've definitely, and I'll admit it's been a challenge for me to be more expressive. It's just not something I do naturally, but I find that if I fake it, the more I fake it, the more natural it becomes. So if you were a fly on the wall last night, you would have seen a bunch of guys, with the exception of Aaron, the drummer, because obviously he can't move a whole lot.
Yeah, Aaron, what's your excuse, bro?
Michael brings the crowd to the drum set.
There you go.
So last night we had some girls that they thought Aaron was just the best eye candy ever, right? So I brought the girls up on stage to the drummer, Aaron, and let them talk to him directly. But it was tough because you don't want to do too much of that, because it's like in between songs, if there's too much of a gap, you lose the crowd, right? But at the same point, it was pretty cool. And to your point, and my takeaway so far is, get this stuff on video, right? If we would have had that on video and posted that to our site, or put some of that out on social media, that would have been awesome to show the engagement part of it.
Well, actually, I do have it. So this is a funny story, guys. We don't have a videographer. I literally had to stop playing, whip out my phone, and the guys will testify to this, for me to capture some of those moments. So I will post them, but something we'll have to think in the future is to have somebody there that's part of the band family.
Eric, all you're saying there was I don't bring a lot in the guitar aspect, so I was able to be a videographer.
Well, busted. Well, listen, I for the building phase of a project, I have, and I've invested a little bit in some standing cameras, the Mevo system. I have 6 standing cameras that I can put up and deploy easily at any time. There was some money, but it was worth doing because I record frickin' everything. Nothing happens on my stage or around it, and I always have at least one camera pointed out at the crowd. It's not the same as, hey, let's have our Instagram moment. Like that's a close up. That's intimate, right? But I would at least find a way to have everybody's phone on a tripod or something while you're in this building out the video proof phase of the project.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab a piece of gear that I want to recommend to you guys. You guys, if you want to pick something up while I go grab that.
Awesome.
I'll give you a little inside baseball. When Adam and I flub something or want to take a second cut at it, we use this tool called Descript that takes the video and transcribes it, and then you edit the document and it edits the video while you go. It's really good. And so we use the word eggplant because we're very unlikely to use that word in normal talking, but that word eggplant implies like go Control F eggplant, because that means there's something we need to cut right here because we wanted to take another run at something or something like that. So
it's funny, Dan, you say that because last night in the club we played at, they had the two biggest security guards I've ever seen. Michael, and these guys were like probably ex linebackers for one of the colleges. These guys were huge. And a couple of times when the women came up to the stage, they reacted because they were concerned, okay, they could be drunk and whatever.
right.
One of the guards, one of the security guards I was talking to was like, you just give me a safe word. Give me a safe word, and I'll know whether or not to intervene or not. I never had to use the safe word, but
That's good. That's far more engaged security staff than I've really ever worked with.
That was out of the ordinary. These guys are huge and fully tatted, and but the thing is, like before every show, I always go to the bartender and if the security guard or the manager, and I ask them, what can we do to make this enjoyable for you? Because the last thing we want to do is have a bartender who's annoyed because they can't hear their patrons and they can't do this.
Right.
So I always communicate with them beforehand, develop that relationship, and then I mention them throughout the night as well. Because if they're not happy, you're not coming back.
I've never seen a manager or booker who hung out through the show. That's very rare. They're getting feedback from their staff. So that's a really smart thing, Michael.
So talking about things that you guys should get, so Dan's got the whole Mevo thing. It's fantastic. It's a very large upfront cost. If you're looking for something that's easily doable, accessible, everybody can get this. They have these things, they're called magic arms or friction arms. You can get these for about $20-$30 on Amazon. And it's got a clamp on one side and it's got like a screw mount on the other. And you can they have phone mounts that work into these things. And basically, if you screw this to like a cymbal stand or a mic stand and you clamp it down, it is rock solid. It's not going anywhere. And it's a good setup to put your phone or a camera, like a GoPro or something on that is unobtrusive out of the way, but also optimally placed for solid footage capture. I have one that goes in my gig bag and I've got probably 3 or 4 others that are just strewn about in my area. So, I can send you links if you want those kinds of deals. But yeah, total no brainer. Everybody should have one of those for if you're playing out.
Cause I have your website up in another page here, and I said I have no notes, but now that we've talked, like this feels like the website of like a pretty buttoned up group, and that's not the story I'm hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
So you need to build some video and photo evidence of the engagement party you guys throw.
That's a good point.
It sounds like we need to reach out to our photographer friend and but have him come out to a show and capture those interactive moments. He's got good gear. We've been relying on for the video you saw there. It's an old GoPro on its last leg, so we'll need to upgrade that anyway.
I tell you, I put a one of those clamps on my headstock, and I took video from my headstock, kind of down my strings with a wide enough camera to capture me and sort of anyone to my right. And so when I went out, I could I was filming as I played, and I was like coming up next to people and playing with them and capturing their reaction to it on the camera that was hanging off my headstock.
That's crazy.
You want to think about like all the ways that you could capture those moments that are so great in the show that you love so much that you come home and you like the next morning you're like, oh, remember that? Oh, that lady was like just screaming, all those amazing moments. We need to see that. We need to see that in your media.
Yeah, I want to throw this one out because I've seen this a lot recently. And Aaron, this is specifically for you. There's a specific kind of mount for the 360 cameras that can do that weird like panoramic kind of deal. And I've seen so many shots of people coming over and putting that camera in the drummer's mouth. And basically from that vantage point, you can literally see everything, but also it gives you like this crazy, like cartoonish perspective of what the drummer's doing also.
I saw that. Like there was this train guy who went the train tracks. Like he looks really silly with that. Like huge head, like deformed head shape.
Yeah.
Funny, right? Yeah.
Same kind of idea, but yeah, there's a bunch of those out there, and it is a kind of a funny thing as far as like context, like because it comes out and like all of a sudden it's like just arms and crazy faces and stuff. So
Yeah, I could
lots
do
of
that.
options there. But, I think Dan nailed this one because you guys are doing a lot of stuff right. You're active on the platforms, you're promoting and that kind of thing. It's just finding better opportunities to find points to interact with people online, and then better opportunities to capture what you guys are actually doing when, the rubber meets the road and you're actually, doing the thing.
The thing that's working is what a great part of your show is. And then I go to your website and you're in black t-shirts and jeans leaning against a fence. It's like, we need to see the party. We need to see the party on this website. We need to see the party on your socials. Which actually you're not doing terrible about that, but there's ways to grow it that we've covered. I think all of that is gonna, between that and the segmented and real attention on the mailing list, I think that's going to start to build momentum in all of the localities you're playing in. I had started out thinking like, all right, what if you just said you're playing Raleigh? What if you just focused there and built there and then had like maybe satellite shows periodically, but that was it? That would be a path, but I don't know. I think what's really missing is showing the world who you are through your digital media. And that would be my first cut.
Yeah, that's mind blowing, honestly.
And the cool thing is that, the thing that people don't realize about video storytelling is that it's just a matter of putting the effort in. Because if every single person put their phone up on a stand and you recorded the entire show, odds are there's going to be 45 seconds to a minute and a half that's worth sharing with people. But what you're basically doing is you're taking just the intensity and the excitement and all the energy into your show, and you're just condensing it down into like this tiny kind of bite-sized piece. But that is ultimately the thing that is the most like enticing and delicious to people, is like, ooh, I can look at this thing for 30 seconds and know, oh, I got to be at the next time these guys come through.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you do it on stage, when that happens in your next show, they're like, "Oh yeah,
that was the thing."
Yeah.
100%. Because listen, we could sit here, we could pick apart the song list and we could pick apart the promo materials and the write-ups and all that stuff. But ultimately, that's the thing that's going to matter. Is the story that you guys are able to tell people from the outside. Because we already know the story that you guys can tell from the inside. But if the challenge is getting people into the room for you to have the opportunity to do that, this is the way you're going to get there.
Yep. And just go full circle.
I was going to say, Dan, you opened my eyes there because now that you mention it, and I'm looking at my website and I'm like, yeah, you look at it, it's very serious. Like we're standing by a fence in t-shirts, or we're changing shirts. We're walking down a path like we're the cast of Yellowstone. I mean, there's no that loony stuff in that webpage, but it's very professional. If somebody says, let me go look at, oh, okay, here's that. You're getting the professionalism out of it, but where's the zaniness, or where's the looniness, or where's the crowd function that you do? Totally awesome.
And I'm looking at that, the photo carousel on the website. The header for that is capturing moments with the Tone Merchants band, right? And then the one shot that's a single shot of you, Michael, is like a realtor's headshot, except there's a microphone.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, show me the goofy. Show me the, like, I want to see some Michael in this thing.
I want to take down my website now.
Well, don't leave it up for now, but enhance it with some good photos from like that show like the energy of the thing.
Yeah, and here's the deal with a website. The reason why you should have a legit, like a freestanding website, is for things like corporate gigs and private gigs. But it doesn't seem like you guys are really like in the market for doing that right this second.
We'd love to.
Well, sure. But I still feel like if ultimately what you're trying to sell is the thing that you do, it's not doing that. And even if you did all the stuff that we talked about, the things that you can improve on from the website is just it being less generic. So if you want to show people, like, you come to our show because there's a party, even if it's, the five of you guys standing against a corrugated, aluminum wall, put something on that's bright, some sort of neon, just like something with like a little flair to it. Yeah. There's no personality in this. Like, I could look at a dozen other bands that are doing what you guys are doing, and maybe they do it the same way you do it, maybe they don't, but you're not telling me anything with the promo that you guys have, especially considering what we've been talking about this whole time.
What you're describing, if I can distill it down, is we need to come up with our alter egos on stage, and that because who we are in our 9 to 5 jobs is one thing, but when we go, and to your point, and thank you for calling this out, we describe ourselves as this like party, but what you're seeing is really more a party for accountants, not necessarily a party band for the people.
Listen, man, accountants can throw down.
I just say, any accountants out there, we love you. You have a purpose.
No offense, I have family that are accountants, but just that there's a disconnect between what we're saying and what you're seeing, and so we have to work on the seeing part through video and through pictures, and actually not just simply describe the party, but show the party. And that's where we're going to get that critical mass going. You mentioned about corporate and private. We would like to, but to get there, we have to work on our imaging and our presentation now, because it's not just about musicality. We can play. We have to now blend the musicality with the show, and that's what's going to get us to the next level.
And by the way, you may find that the expectations of engagement are different for those kinds of gigs. What you can do engaging with people at a bar is a little different from what you can do at a company party. People are going to feel a little different about that. But, read the room. You're socially adept people. You can handle that. But I think an overhaul of your materials here that show what really happens at your show, I think that's the most critical thing.
And listen, this is not like groundbreaking. Like, I would say 80% of bands, their pinch point, their friction area is their promo material. It's always it's always a challenge. Like, even the stuff that like my band has up it's old at this point, and it works, it's fine, but yeah, we're definitely long overdue for that stuff. So even, I'm definitely, preaching stuff that I also need to listen to. So don't take that as anything beyond just outside observations.
Yeah.
Everybody needs work on that for sure.
Well, and I love how much I can hear you already at work. It's really great.
Yeah, the
really
wheels
great.
are turning.
It's a very satisfying coaching session when I can hear like, oh man, like I got work to do. Like, yes, go. Perfect.
Listen, Aaron, you've been really quiet this entire time. I want to give you an opportunity to say something if you want to.
Instead of telling what we should do, I was more focused on listening, so that's why I kept quiet. I would say, so yeah, I think our weak link is the media. I agree with that. Like, so we need to enhance that. Eric and Michael are doing a great job, the engagement, and especially Eric is always booking new gigs, so he's working hard. We appreciate him as a band. I think we should be capturing the shows continuously, not for like just once and hope for that it would be a good show that we can post something out of it. Instead, we should be constantly recording it and putting audio in it and making snippets out of it, like the great moments that happened there, to have more media content. So I picked that out of this conversation. That's the idea for me, and be more silly to at least bring the party, bring the goofiness, bring the easy feelings.
Yeah.
The last show we did, I recorded the audio. We recorded it, and today I mixed it. I was gonna surprise them, but now they know. So it sounds good. We can, if we have any videos, we will put them together and we can put it on the media. And I agree with the engaging with other platforms, especially Instagram or other newer, for the lack of a better word, younger generational, I don't know, like platforms. because like I have a little bit of an age gap between the other guys in the stand and me. So
I wasn't going to point that out, but I did notice
okay,
that in the
Grandpa.
photos.
Okay. So yeah, we think a little different when we think about media, think about what the how we look or other things. I would say I can see a little bit more of a point of view from like a younger person, I would say. But the main thing is we should be exploring the other platforms. I hate to, engage in social media. I should be doing that for them, but I suck at it. But I think putting in more work will do a great job in that too. Uh, get us get us more distance to achieve our goals.
Well, listen, you guys don't put a whole lot of effort into TikTok just yet. Let's give it a couple of weeks. It may not be there. So,
Right.
but like as far as like talking through ways that you can do these things that don't necessarily feel so, I don't know, because I understand the hesitancy. Like a lot of people don't vibe with social media, and that's fine. But like something as simple as you recording practice sessions, like if you're at home and you're playing drums and you just are doing playthroughs of songs, like you could literally clip 15 seconds of an intro, be like, name that tune. Like that's a whole post. So, there's a lot of ways that you can do these kinds of things that don't necessarily feel as obtrusive as some of them do. And that's another thing, is that a lot of people are like, I don't feel like sharing myself on social media. I'm not myself on social media at all. I share what I feel like sharing with people. And if I choose to like let you in on like a part of me, like personally, that's one thing. But like outside of what's going on like the Patreon side and the Slack channel, like very few people on social media know me as a person, So there's always ways of putting distance between what you put out and who you are. So while I understand the hesitancy and I understand that, it's a comfort level for some people, there's definitely ways to do both without feeling like you're compromising one over the other.
Dan's blown my mind tonight, so I'm just,
Good.
I mean,
Good.
yeah, this is why we're here, correct? So
Yep.
I think that's the important part, and we don't have to totally abandon the whole website. We just need to incorporate some of that stuff into the already existing website.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like, the stuff that we normally critique, you've got a call to action without scrolling, like you've got branding. The stuff that's there is there.
Yep.
And, the only thing left for you guys to do is to find better media to share the story that you're trying to tell, and just compiling cool stuff you've done to put into the bio. Because ultimately that's what you're looking to do, is you're like saying, here's who we are and here's what we can do for you.
Right.
All the stuff that you need is there. It's just a matter of finding better ways to tell the story.
Yeah, express the brand. Express the brand. Right?
Yep.
A brand is a promise you're making to a consumer.
Yep.
Right? And so this website just, it makes the wrong promise.
It tells a story. It's just not necessarily the one you guys are looking to tell.
Yeah.
And that's an easy fix. You guys can fix that,
100%.
in no time.
You'll have that fixed this week, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You guys have any final questions for us, or anything that you feel like we need to dig into more? Or?
I was going to say, let me ask if I could. This is when I kind of asked the other day. There's a lot of great talent in the Triangle area, and especially when it comes to female vocalists, lead singers. There's some women out here that can really sing, right? And they also have that sex appeal. Now, granted, I have some of that, but I don't. That was a joke. Adam, you're not laughing.
It sounds to me like your drummer is really the eye candy.
Well, he's the second best eye candy. Let's just say that right now.
Okay. All right.
But I guess what I'm trying to think is a lot of people tend to gravitate booking acts with that sex appeal and eye candy, as opposed to, I feel like, something like what we do. But then again, I feel like if we promote more of the craziness and the zaniness, then maybe that will be more of a sex appeal than the actual sex appeal, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah. To me, that kind of sounds like you're laying the foundation for a reason why you guys aren't getting what you're looking for. I don't know if that's necessarily what's happening.
Yeah.
Because what we've already established is like, okay, the challenge that we're having is that we're not telling the right story. And maybe the bands that you're seeing that are getting those things are better at doing that than you guys have been up to this point. So I don't know if it's necessarily a male vocalist versus female vocalist thing, or a hot person versus not hot person thing. I think it's what are they able to convey in their marketing material that gets them where they're trying to go? And how can you guys do something for you that plays to the strengths that you guys have?
True.
Guys, just for your benefit, as a little more background information, within the Triangle, there are probably about a half dozen well-established bands, meaning they've been around for 10, 15 years. They've had the benefit of time to build up those audiences, so they tend to draw well. We've only been out of the gate for a year, so I can't expect that we're going to be able to compete toe-to-toe with them just because we just haven't been at it long enough. The advice you've given tonight, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold. We make those changes. I think also, too, what I'm seeing here is with these bands, and Michael was talking about female singers, I think it's less about that and more about what makes bands different. There's a lot of bands here in town that are kind of the same. They play the same songs, they kind of do the same stuff.
Yes. Yes.
There's not a lot of differentiation in this market. Putting into play the things you're talking about to where our story matches up with what we're saying, and then so people like, we can tell our story, but others telling our story is going to go a long way towards separating us, creating some differentiation from us compared to everybody else. And I think that if we do those right things, that's what's going to get us the gigs. That's what's going to get us to the next step, because
Right.
we are different. We're not cookie cutter in
I
that
agree.
respect.
I agree. And here's the other thing. Those bookers can't fill their whole calendar with those half dozen 10-year-old bands. They need you. They actually need you. Right? They just need to know what they're looking at when they look at you.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that you have to find the way that you differentiate yourself, because objectively, if you look at your song list, it is very much in line with most cover bands in any given market. So you can differentiate yourself in a lot of different ways, and there is no right answer to this. It's a matter of figuring out, it could be your stage presence, it could be the clothes that you wear on stage, it could be your branding, it could be the songs that you do, it could be leaning into a particular part of the list that you guys already have and make it more specific. There's riches in the niches, is what they say. And so if you can find something that really plays to your strengths that you can drill down on, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be new songs, it doesn't have to be a totally different image. It's just whatever you guys can wrap your hands around in order to put yourselves out into the marketplace. That's ultimately what's going to make or break you.
Yeah. I guess as I look at your sample song list on the website, like, it's classic rock and some 90s. That's what I'm looking at here.
Yep.
So if you really have repertoire that is broader than that, more eclectic than that, I would add those in.
The funny thing is that 90% of this has nothing to do with what you guys are actually doing on stage,
right,
or what you're playing.
No, that's all working. That's all working.
You actually,
there's stuff to lean into, but just in terms of capture and making it marketable. But keep doing what you're doing on stage. I mean, string guys maybe up to 40% of the Michael. Right? Yeah, that's a thing. But
believe it or not, you guys have already done the hard part.
Yeah. Now it's about showing. Now it's about telling the story.
Yeah.
If I'm again playing back, the wheels are turning, Dan. It's more, and tell me if I'm off base here. It's more about how people feel when they're part of the experience than necessarily what we're playing. It's what they're feeling, and if they're feeling and they're having a good time and they're dancing, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
the songs are important, but how they feel about what's happening. If I'm hearing you correctly, that's where it's at. Is
Absolutely.
Creating those and capturing those experiences, because that's what makes us different than the other bands. Everyone plays, the 5 or 10 or 20 songs that we all play, but what is the crowd feeling? What are they experiencing when they hear that?
Yeah, look, a band that does those songs and stays on stage and kind of has their stuff buttoned down, they might be a party and I might be here to watch them be the party. But that's not what you guys put on. What you guys put on, I come to your show, I'm in the party. I'm part of the party. I'm included. I'm invited.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's the differentiator. Like the differentiator is there's no wall at the front of the stage with you guys.
It's giving Clanky Lincolns, if I'm being honest.
Me too. God, I'm dying.
What was that? Clinky?
So my previous band, the Clanky Lincolns, was very much this vibe. And my current band is a power trio, which means I'm kind of locked to a guitar and a mic stand. And I don't have the freedom to move around like I used to have. And it's killing me. Like it's the one thing I need to change about my next project.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, the feeling I got for what I took away from you is if I click on to Tone Merchant's website, it's the feeling I get when I look at that website. It's like, oh, that looks like fun. Oh, that looks like that's something I might want to go check out. And instead of just seeing us post for the Old Man's Vogue magazine or something, it's like, looking on that website, you're going to incite feelings before they even come to see the band.
100%. And then that same brand message needs to be there on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your email list. Like that's who you are. That's the promise you're making. That's a part of every communication you make. You're that great big party and like everybody just wants to come. Why would you not come? Obviously you got to come.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. Why would you miss this?
1,000%.
Hopefully this is the thing that you guys need to put some wind in your sails and get you going. And we'd love to hear from you in 3-6 months time to see how anything that you've implemented has.
We'll be watching. No pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
No pressure.
Thank you, guys.